Hi, this is Tanya Adams. I'm with iGirl Tech News, where we introduce you to exciting women entrepreneurs in the tech industry. And today, my guest is Melissa Hanna, the founder and CEO of Mahmee. And did I say that correctly?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Great. Um, Now, first of all, I want to ask you, what is Mahmee, and what gave you the idea?
So, Mommy is a mobile healthcare app that connects new moms with a network of maternal healthcare specialists who can talk to them anytime securely via text and video chat. And our app also features personalized educational content for moms around a variety of healthcare questions and challenges they may be facing either with their own bodies or with their newborns up to the first 2 years of life.
That is so cool. What gave you the
Oh,
idea?
I came up with the idea for this company after spending hours with my mom on the road in her private concierge maternal health care practice. My mom is an award-winning breastfeeding consultant and maternal health care nurse who worked for the last 35 years in major hospitals in Los Angeles and built many of their outpatient care programs for new moms and babies. So a few years ago, she went out on her own and she created a concierge practice where she visits women in their homes and provides personalized care to them privately at home outside of the hospital environment, and then communicates with them through text when they have questions about breastfeeding or about sleep training and other sorts of issues that come up in postpartumhood. But I noticed that her phone was blowing up with text all the time, and the other women on her team, the other nurses that work with her, same thing. Moms were texting all the time, asking questions, and they were little questions that were the kind of things that if you searched online, you'd get just a deluge of information, and if you went to the doctor, it was kind of maybe too small of a question to bother the doctor with, and so you wanted this intermediate channel where you could just talk to someone who you trusted, who was an expert in that area, about some of the issues you were facing as a new mom. And so from that, and from my mom's work in that area, I realized that there was an opportunity to bring some mobile technology into this space and create a secure channel for women to both communicate directly with their maternal health care providers and also to get access to the kind of information and video and text content that they wanted around the healthcare issues that they were facing. So creating a personalized educational experience for them. People are not realizing that there are these opportunities to create personalized mobile experiences for women, and I would love to see more of this kind of technology out there. And when I realized what a dearth there was, I decided, maybe it's time for me to build something.
That's cool. We saw a need and you decided to fill it. That's great. What's the biggest lesson you've learned as you're going after funding for this project or any of your projects?
Well, in going after funding for this project, I learned a lot about how to present this very unique digital healthcare challenge to men, primarily, that are the investors that I've spoken with. I have definitely worked really hard to engage women investors in this conversation and nationwide, because I'm in LA, which already has a limited investor community. So I've traveled to New York, I've gone to San Francisco, and just sought out investors who understand what we're building, appreciate the technology that we're building, and want to help this particular community of new moms. But in explaining what the issues are with, for example, breastfeeding, a lot of people don't realize just how challenging that can be for a new mom and how frustrating and painful and exhausting it can be. So you really kind of have to paint a picture for investors that is probably going to be beyond the scope of their knowledge of that area, if they have any at all.
Yeah, I would think here they would have a limited knowledge of that area in the U.S. It doesn't seem to be such a broad. I had my son in Europe, where everybody breastfeeds. If you breastfeed everywhere, it's not a problem. But there's still those questions that that I had back then, and like you say, the small questions that you don't want to bother the doctor about, that I needed answers to, and it was hard finding the answers. So this is great. I love it. What are some of the personality traits you think make a successful entrepreneur?
I think that one of the most important qualities to have to be a successful entrepreneur is resilience. There are a lot of challenges in building a company and building a team and keeping the team together, and it's important to have a vision that you can believe in and that you can engage others in believing in, and keep the spirit alive even when it starts to get really tough on the road that you're on, and it will inevitably, because I think that building a business is something that outside of all the financial and technical challenges of building a company, there are a lot of personal and psychological challenges with it that the entrepreneur, that the CEO is going to face, but that the team is also going to face. So you have to be strong for your team, really, which that's what it comes down to, and I think that is that's being resilient.
What's something that women need to do more of to see greater success, do you think?
I really, I really don't like that question too much. It's a nerve with me because the answers that you usually hear to questions like that are things like women need to toughen up, act like the boys, be more confident, and I've heard all of that. I've heard that many times before from investors and fellow entrepreneurs and other people that are outside of the industry but have an opinion about what I'm doing. And I don't think that really any of those suggestions are things that are actionable for women in a way that people say will produce better results for women entrepreneurs. I think that what women can do is be aware of the biases that people may have, both men and women in the space around female CEOs and female technologists in general, and just be kind of aware of your positionality and of where the other person may be coming from in the conversation, so that you are listening for things that may actually be kind of biased in the way that people are either giving you feedback or advice, or talking to you about what you're working on. For example, I went into a pitch session with a few entrepreneurs. Sorry, I went into a pitch session with a few investors, and there was an older man at the table and two women, and I gave my presentation and I explained what I was doing, and the first thing that the man said was, "No one will ever pay for this. Who needs this?" And I said, I'm not sure where to even begin answering that question, because I know at the very least that there are people who need this, and there are people who want this, and we've already got people signed up to use it. So, how much education do I need to do in order to get him up to speed on the opportunity here? He's starting so far back in judging this idea, and coming from a place where he's not even aware that this problem exists whatsoever, that he can't even imagine someone might pay for personalized digital healthcare. So I guess you just have to be prepared for that in conversations and listen for it, and then don't take it personally if you do hear it.
Okay, because I was wondering about that. Yeah, with a man, it doesn't affect him, so he has no idea.
Well, if I can be candid about the way that I address that when it does come up in meetings, is that that's not the first time that's happened where a man has said, "Who is this thing?" I usually, from that I learned that if I'm sitting down with a male investor or a developer or someone who wants to work on what we're doing and is kind of interested, wants to know more about it, the first thing I ask is, "Do you have children?" Because it really makes a difference if a man has direct exposure to what the postpartum experience is like. And so then if he says, "Yeah, I have a child," or I have children, I say, "Well, were you around? Do you remember what it was like when they were babies?" And they, "Oh yeah." I said, "Okay, do you remember your partner or your wife being really upset a lot of the time, crying and being in pain and being panicky? Do you remember the baby crying? And do you remember what it was like to decide when to give a bottle and when to put the baby down, or if the baby wouldn't go to sleep, to say, I guess the baby's not taking a nap today because they won't stop crying." All of that sort of stuff that's it's really kind of easy to forget once you have teenage children, which many of the investors have. That's kind of the age that they're at. I feel like I kind of have to bring them back to that time in their life, and once they remember that, their whole demeanor changes. And they're like, "Oh yeah, wait, I remember being a new dad, and I remember what that was like for me, and what I saw happen for for my wife or my partner going through new motherhood.
We're always talking about women, and I know, but then is it different, like going in after funding when you're, or having them listening to you if you're a woman of color? That's a total different thing, or do you think so? Is there any difference?
Yeah, I think so. There are times where comments are made, and I think, that's strange. I wonder if you would have said that to someone else. Or in a particular meeting I had where I presented the product that we built, and an investor was just blown away, like almost too blown away. And I thought, it's not even done yet, like they're way too excited about this. And I kind of got a sense after, like, the bar must have been much lower for me than I thought, because you're like really impressed now, and you probably shouldn't be, because you have no idea what's coming next.
What advice would you have for any women wondering if entrepreneurship is for them?
I think that starting a business is something where you may have had this itch for a while. You may have had this in the back of your head and wondered whether you're capable of doing it, or if you could make a living doing it. If your idea would work, if anyone would want what you have in your mind that you'd want to build. And I think that if you have any of those inclinations, any of those feelings, you have to pursue it. It may not, entail quitting your job and cashing out your savings account and going to build your company, which is pretty much what I did with my second business. That's not for everyone, and I'm very kind of risk comfortable. I do things that my friends think they're kind of crazy sometimes, but even if you have that inclination at all, it's important to explore that. I say that it's not worth it to have that regret, to wonder what you could have done with that idea. And I just think it's really important to explore that. And some people don't have it in them, and if you don't force it, because it is really a unique and difficult road to go on to build a company, especially a tech company that has the potential to be highly scalable. That kind of path is not for everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk, but there's a lot of risk involved, like in anything. And like you say, if you have an inclination, you should probably just go for it. How have some of your past positions prepared you for launching Mahmee?
Well, I've had a really all over the place journey in my career, and I've worked for startups, and I've worked for really, really large organizations. I think there are like 10,000 employees at Columbia, and there's several thousand at the very least. But I also worked for Red Bull North America for a few years, and I worked at a big manufacturing company with a few thousand employees nationwide. So the combination of being in very corporate environments and very loose, flexible startup environments has allowed me to see what works and what doesn't work in team dynamics and in pay structure and in product delivery, design, all of that sort of stuff, and also in customer research. And what I found in really large organizations, which is stereotypical of them, is that you get to a certain point of success and you think, okay, we kind of just know our customer now, and we know who we're selling to, and we know what they want. And what I really enjoy about startups is that there are always so many different questions on the table, and everything is just another experiment, in this direction of trying to hit something right and see some success in doing that. So for me, that's really fun, and I want to build an organization that keeps that spirit alive as long as possible. Really, I mean, I don't foresee ever losing that, but I know that it's possible. It happens when you take your success for granted. But that's really something that I've definitely taken to heart in building this business, is constantly asking, are we doing right by the people that we're serving?
That's cool. That's great. Now, can you talk a little bit about your volunteer work for Stoked?
Oh, yeah. I love Stoke Mentoring. It's a great organization that supports urban youth, low-income youth in New York and Los Angeles, and I volunteered in both cities for Stoked. And I think that what's really powerful about being a part of a mentoring organization, especially Stoked in particular, is that it in itself is actually it has that startup mentality that I'm talking about. They started out in one-on-one mentoring, kind of using a model of one-on-one mentoring, and found that group mentoring was really more impacting powerful for students. Stoked uses action sports and community service as a way to engage young people in creating the lives that they want to have, in pursuing higher education out of high school, and creating career paths that fit their passions and their skills. And so doing all of that in this group mentoring model, where someone like me, as a mentor with the organization, can participate in skateboard day. Like, we all learn to skateboard together, and I learned to skateboard with high schoolers in the organization. I also have participated in park cleanup days and other activities where the students have actually built their own skateboards. And so I sat in on one of those sessions as well and learned how a skateboard gets built. All of that sort of stuff is really important, kind of, I would say not personality building, but value building activities. Mm-hmm. But what's really powerful about the way that Stoke does it is that you do that in context with professional mentors around. So older people, I mean, I'm not that much older than them, but my mid-20s and having high schoolers that I'm interacting with, we can have a conversation about their personal goals and their career paths while doing something that is really fun and just educational, like building a skateboard together.
And bonding, yeah, that's great. Can you do an ollie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't risk it anymore. I think now I need my wrist more than ever. I can't really take the risk of skateboarding on a regular basis.
It's exciting. You were just named one of inccom's 9 awesome Black women in tech founders to watch.
I didn't even know I was going to get put on that list. I don't know what the criteria was or anything. I kind of got a message from a friend of like, you got put on this list. It was a really big honor to get selected for the list and be named that title. And I just think, like the other companies in the list, everyone is really awesome. I've met most of the women who are on the list, and we're all working on startups in a variety of spaces and dealing with a lot of similar challenges, just with building companies and also building companies and being Black women and what that means in the tech industry. So I'm just, it was really a really flattering thing to get put on that list. I was really surprised when I found out.
That's cool. I like it because I love that there's more Black women getting into tech, and you're a wunderkind. You are. You won that awesome scholarship when you were younger from that television show, and I saw that show. I remember that.
You were like, you're one of the best people in the country. The show is watched by 7 million people, which sounds like a lot, but by network standards is not enough for it to get a second season. So that's great that you saw it.
That's cool. And then you also, you're a former gymnast.
Yes.
You're getting, and this is what I want to ask you personally, is how are you doing an MBA and a JD and running this company all at the same time? This is what I'm talking about, a wunderkind.
I think anyone who knows me would say that I like to keep busy, like really busy. And I'm at my best, at my peak performance, when I do have a few different plates in the air at the same time. Not too many, because then you can be spread too thin, and I've experienced that before too, where I just am overwhelmed with all of the commitments that I've made. But in this case, actually being in law school and business school at the same time that I'm building this company has been so helpful. I think that people miss what is actually going on for me, which is that I'm in school learning things like medical malpractice law and tort litigation and how to write a contract. And so I do that in the morning, and then in the afternoon I have corporate finance, and I have organizational development, and then I go home at night and I work on this business and I apply everything that I learned all day to actually making this business come alive. So for me, doing those 3 things at the same time, it's not as crazy as it looks or sounds to everyone else. For me, it seems like the best way to be building this company. And at some point things will hit the fan, and I will not be able to effectively run the business as it grows and be in school at the same time. I understand that is reasonably likely to happen since I still have a couple years left. So I've considered that, and I've talked to my professors about it, and if and when that day comes, I know the decision I have to make. on behalf of the business, and I'll be prepared to do it then. But until then, I really love doing it all at the same time.
That's amazing. That's great. You know what? I want to thank you, Melissa, for being with us today and, and giving you your time and everything. This is wonderful. I really enjoyed speaking with you. How can we learn more about Mahmee?
Oh, you can learn more about Mahmee at our website, www.mahmee.com. And you can email me if you want, if you have any questions or you'd like to stay connected. I'm melissa@mahmee.com. And my Twitter handle is @MelissaCHanna. Yeah, I'd love to stay connected with anyone who is interested in what we're doing.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for taking the time today with us. Bye.
Bye.